video. Purple Political Talk here, and today we're going to be doing a senatorial prediction. It's been quite some time since I made my last prediction, and we're just going to update it and talk about it. So, first of all, guys, I want to thank you all for reaching 110 subscribers, and I've upgraded my equipment. Now I'm using a new mic, and I want to see if you guys notice the difference, and if I should make more videos that are more like voiceover, like where I do more documentaries, and if you guys want to do like political documentaries, like analyzing Elizabeth Warren's campaign or something like that, we could do that. It's just up to you guys. So today we're going to be going through 2020 senatorial races, and just going to start. Honestly, right now, all these states that we're going to be safe are pretty much safe. And out of all these races, Democrats have a good majority of safe races. And honestly, at this point in time, Democrats have a very good standing to win the United States Senate. Republicans are facing losses, or even chances are a loss, rather, in places that should have been considered pretty safe Republican. We shouldn't be talking about somewhere like Montana going red. We shouldn't be talking like somewhere like Kansas going red. But it just happens to be that one, either the Republican Party chose atrocious candidates for a lot of these races, or simply that some of the Democratic candidates are just way amazing. And honestly, I think it's a combination of all these things and kind of currently fatigue for the Republican Party. And all these different things will factor in the 2020 senatorial elections, my bad. So I'm just going to begin with our Republican likely states. And looking at the likely states, there's states that are probably going to go to them, like Texas, for example. We have John Cornyn, who is a popular senator, I guess, and he honestly is not going to have a very tough re-election bid like someone like Ted Cruz did, because, look, considering that Beto was such a specific candidate for that state, yeah, the Democratic challenger would do really good, but I think we're going to see similar margins to what the governor's race was with Lupe Valdez against Greg Abbott in 2018. And I think states like South Carolina and Alabama, at this point, it's not looking pretty good for the Democrats there. In Alabama, they're going to lose that seat, but they're gaining in other places, so that doesn't really matter. And it was pretty doomed. Doug Jones was doomed since the beginning. He knew that his re-election bid was going to be tough, and the Republicans in Alabama are very, very, popular, I guess. So it's going to be hard for someone like Doug Jones to go out and win. And these three states are one of the most important states, and I put it all along the state of Alaska. It's going to be a lot. Al Gross has a nice chance of winning that race, but still, Dan Sullivan has a pretty good hold on the state of Alaska. And I think all these states will end up going by likely margins. And South Carolina was simply because of Jamie Harrison could narrow down the margin a little bit. Lindsey Graham's really unpopular anyways. So those states, I think, honestly, although they do have a chance of flipping, it's not something that's kind of set in stone. And, these states, for example, Colorado, that is a Democratic state at this point. I don't think Republicans should start focusing more money on this because it's a lost race. John Hickenlooper, popular governor, all these different things. And you're going against someone that's pretty unpopular, I guess. We're going against Cory Gardner. So at this point, Democrats have the state of Colorado, which kind of offset, like, starting off the state of Alabama. So if nothing else changes, if everything else stays the same, which I don't think it will, it won't really matter because they're just flipping which seats they have. And now, I think where are other places where Democrats have likely states? Arizona, Martha McSally is so unpopular. Mark Kelly is leading her on an average, and these are recent polls, I guess, by 10 points. We're talking a place where they narrowly elected a Democratic senator where she was supposed to lose, and Martha McSally was actually supposed to become the next senator officially, but instead of being handpicked for a seat. And I think that unpopularity for Martha McSally will truly be one of her demises for her Senate seat. Another place we can say the same thing, actually I forgot to fill in the state of Virginia. And we can say something pretty similar, I guess. That New Hampshire is going to be pretty safe for the Democrats. Jean Shaheen is pretty popular, and she doesn't have real contenders to beat her in that race, for example. But still, it's going to be a pretty good chance for her to win that race. And something interesting about the state of Massachusetts now that we're up here. Joe Kennedy is looking like he's going to win that primary, and Unsi Ed Markey. The general election won't change anything, but that's primary talk, which I think I'll do a video about that. And yeah. So the rest of the states on your screen will go by lead margins or by tilt margins. And I honestly think that some of these states could be a lot closer than they're making them to seem. So let's start with our lean Republican states. We never go with the Republicans first, so let's do that today. And with the state of the states that I think are going to go by this margin, state of Kentucky. Look, Mitch McConnell might be so unpopular and everything that you might say. Yeah, he's unpopular, but Amy McGrath, although she might be an inspired candidate, remember that Kentucky is Kentucky. They're going to re-elect Mitch McConnell. Yeah, they won the governor's race, but I think those were like some special circumstances. And Mitch McConnell, I mean, although he might not be super popular, he does have his base in the state of Kentucky, which at the end of the day, I mean, what could really hurt him is that what we really saw in the 2019 governor's race was teachers turn on him, which at this point he has pretty good support among teachers in the state of Kentucky. So at this point, he's going to go by a lean margin, and we can probably say the same thing about both of the races in the state of Georgia. I mean, these two races are very pretty unique. We have a very contested, jungle primary in that special election, where we could easily see the current incumbent Kelly Loeffler, or we could see Doug Collins going to go and win the Republican primary, and then we're probably going to see Raphael Warnock. I mean, he's, I guess, pretty popular in the state of Georgia, but nationwide he doesn't have that much recognition. So at the end of the day, I think that race will be like a lean margin, and same in the John Ossoff versus David Perdue race. And the interesting thing about this race would be that I think that it's going to be a little bit more narrow than the special election. David Perdue, I mean, he's not the most popular senator in the United States. He does have his base. And you have someone like John Ossoff that has run before in this the state of Georgia and is pretty popular. And I guess he's going to have an easier chance of beating him than someone who just came from being a mayor or something like that. So at the end of the day, I think John Ossoff has a really good chance at the Senate seat, but at the end of the day, he's not going to get there. And I think those are all the Republican lean states. Moving on to the Democrats, they do have a lot. I think at this point, the state of Minnesota, the state of Michigan, those two Rust Belt states will be close. I mean, they're going to go into the lean margin. I think they're not going to be blowouts like somewhere like Colorado or Arizona, senatorial speaking. I mean, they're going to be like somewhere between 3 to 5%. But at the end of the day, that's pretty good for the Democratic Party, because remember, these are two seats that went to Donald Trump, or narrowly went to Hillary Clinton for the case of Minnesota. And this is going to be affected by the 2020 election. Now, maybe you could see a little bit more push for John James in the state of Michigan, or I don't know who the Tina Smith opponent is, but for them because of Trump support. But at the end of the day, that's probably not going to be a major factor because it's looking like Donald Trump will lose there anyways. So at the end of the day, I think those two states will go by 3 to 5%. And I can also say the same thing about the state of North Carolina. Tom Tillis, I mean, he's not super popular again. A lot of these senators, they're not super popular, but they're not that unpopular. But considering that Democrats are having great candidate choices for these seats that they want to flip, I mean, it's going to be pretty easy to beat someone that's not so popular, not so unpopular senator, a mediocre senator, let's call it that. And with Cal Cunningham, he's a really good candidate, I guess, and he's outraised Tom Tillis by I think I've heard like 2 times or 3 times, which, considering a campaign like this, it's a lot. And honestly, that could be easy enough to push him over the finish line, but still there is chances for things to happen and things like that. And honestly, I think we're looking that Democrats could have an easy majority at the Senate. We can even see where they get a majority of 50, 51, 52, 53 seats. Again, will that happen? Probably not, but it's still a possibility. Now, all the states that are left that are unfilled will go into the tilt column. And I think a big thing is that some of the races will be close. Some will favor the Republican Party. Some will favor the Democrats. So I'm just going to go from west to east and just talk about each race. State of Montana, we're going to see a very interesting race. And at this point, the Republicans have a key handle in there. And the reason they do have that is money. They're pouring enough money into that race that they're probably going to be able to keep afloat. Steve Bullock, yeah, he is a very popular governor. He does have all these different things. But remember this. You may be a popular governor, but there's also a popular senator. There's going to be a close race. And certainly it's not going to be an easy race. Because remember, when you had an incumbent senator So, by the way, remember that incumbency really helps you out and it gives you a little bit more of an advantage. So, for example, that won't help you out too much in the state of Colorado, where you're going to lose by a big margin. But, I mean, it does help you out a little bit. So, here's going to be incumbency versus extreme popularity. And we're going to see a close race. I think this will be in the tilt column, like less than 1%. And the reason for that being is that, I mean, Steve Daines has enough support from the Republican Party that he could probably get through in the state of Montana. And yes, Steve Bullock, again, he's pretty popular, but I don't think it's going to be enough. When it goes to the state of Kansas, right now it's looking like Barbara Bollier might take that seat. They're making the voters in Kansas that want a Republican in the Senate, they're making a huge mistake by electing Chris Kobach. I mean, they're essentially are kind of just saying, oh, do you want to get an easy victory, Democrats? Well, here you go. So, I think that's going to be a big mistake, and that's going to come back and bite them if they choose Chris Kobach. And considering that Barbara Bollier is someone that's a little bit more conservative Democrat, someone like Laura Kelly, I mean, she could easily appeal to the Kansas voters who do not like Chris Kobach and just take that big majority, like maybe someone like Greg Orman did when he ran for Senate and governor in 2014, I think, something like that, yeah. So, the rest of these two states, I mean, we have Joni Ernst in the state of Iowa. I mean, there is already a candidate, but I kind of see Joni Ernst narrowly holding on. State of Iowa, I mean, as of recently, I mean, you would have the very deep African-American support in areas like Des Moines, near the university towns, and all those things. But at the end of the day, remember also that there's a big Republican base in the rural areas. Yeah, maybe some of these Democrats, they took over Congress, but remember, these are conservative Democrats. They're not as they're Iowan Democrats, and at the end of the day, yeah, the person running for Senate is also an Iowan Democrat, but I think with the Trump support in the state of Iowa, it's looking pretty good for Joni Ernst to narrowly hold on to her Senate seat. And last but not least, we have the story from the state of Maine, and at this point, I mean, Susan Collins should be saying goodbye. I mean, there's still hope for her, but I would put it into the tilt column, and I'm not putting it because of margins, but rather because I'm a little bit torn. Yeah, Susan Collins is unpopular and whatever you want to say, but I don't know how someone like Sarah Gideon will run her campaign. When we get closer to election day, we're going to see how each candidate starts to run their campaign, and we're going to see these important factors. And in the state of Maine, it's going to be pretty interesting to see. Susan Collins was very popular. At one point, she was the most popular senator. Now she's the most unpopular. That's a whole 100 senators. You went down the list. And Susan Collins should be worried. And the Republican Party should be worried. But at the end of the day, it's looking like Sarah Gideon will win. And I'm just classifying that as a tilt margin. Again, not because of margin, but because I'm unsure of how Sarah Gideon will run her campaign. So guys, the current majority that I have and my prediction for the United States Senate is 51 Democrats to 49 Republicans. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please give it a thumbs up. Like and subscribe if you're not yet so. And I'll be making more videos, and I think I'm going to start making some voiceover videos where I go into different campaigns and things like that. And I'll do that if you guys want to. If not, I will stick to regular predictions and election nights. So guys, I want to thank all of you for watching, and goodbye.